Imagine living in paradise, lush fields, blue oceans, and swaying sugarcane. But behind this beauty lies exploitation, brutal working conditions, and a clash so violent it would be remembered as the Hilo Massacre. Today, we uncover the shocking story of Hawaii's 1938 sugar workers' strike, a forgotten battle for dignity, equality, and survival. Welcome to Fakyanai, where history's untold stories come alive. If you're fascinated by the hidden chapters of our past, make sure to hit subscribe, tap the notification bell, and give this video a like so more people can discover these incredible truths. In 1937, Hawaii's workers watched as union movements gained strength on the US mainland. Strikes brought railroads, factories, and ports to a standstill, and workers often won better conditions. In Hawaii, however, unions were brutally suppressed. Plantation owners and local police used intimidation, blacklisting, and violence to keep workers silent. But the sugar workers had had enough. Their wages were pitiful, barely enough to survive. Many lived in plantation camps with poor sanitation and little medical care. Families struggled and resentment boiled. In early 1938, the International Longshoremen's and Warehousemen's Union, ILWU, began organizing Hawaii's sugar workers. For the first time, different ethnic groups were encouraged to unite under one banner. Plantation owners were terrified. A united workforce was their worst nightmare. The conflict came to a head in Hilo, on the Big Island of Hawaii. On August 1, 1938, a peaceful demonstration was planned. Around 200 workers and union supporters gathered to protest unfair treatment and demand recognition of their union. Men, women, and even children stood together. They carried banners, sang songs, and marched through Hilo's streets. The mood was defiant but hopeful. These workers believed their voices would finally be heard, but the authorities had other plans. The Hilo Police Department, armed with tear gas and riot guns, lined the streets. They were determined to break the strike before it gained momentum. As the workers approached the docks, they were met by police blocking their path. The crowd was peaceful, but tensions were high. Then, without warning, the police attacked. Tear gas was fired into the crowd, sending people running and choking. Officers wielded clubs, striking men and women alike. Shotguns loaded with buckshot were fired directly at the strikers. Chaos exploded. Screams filled the air as workers collapsed, bleeding from wounds. Parents shielded their children. Protesters tried to retreat, but the police pushed forward relentlessly. By the end, over 50 people were injured. Some were shot in the back as they fled. Others were beaten unconscious. The brutality was so severe that the event would be remembered as the Hilo Massacre. Remarkably, no one was killed that day, but the wounds, both physical and psychological, were deep. Newspapers sympathetic to the plantation owners downplayed the violence, calling it a riot rather than a massacre. Authorities insisted the workers had provoked the attack, but eyewitness accounts told a different story. Men and women described the police opening fire on unarmed protesters, shooting at point-blank range. The violence was deliberate, meant to crush the spirit of Hawaii's labor movement. Instead, it had the opposite effect. Remarkably, no one was killed that day, but the wounds, both physical and psychological, were deep. Newspapers sympathetic to the plantation owners downplayed the violence, calling it a riot rather than a massacre. Authorities insisted the workers had provoked the attack, but eyewitness accounts told a different story. Men and women described the police opening fire on unarmed protesters, shooting at point-blank range. The violence was deliberate, meant to crush the spirit of Hawaii's labor movement. Instead, it had the opposite effect. The Hilo Massacre became a rallying cry for labor rights in Hawaii. Though the strikers had been beaten, their courage inspired others. Slowly, workers across the islands began to organize, overcoming ethnic divisions to demand justice. By the 1940s and 1950s, the ILWU had grown into a powerful union, forcing the Big Five companies to negotiate. Plantation workers finally won better wages, safer housing, and medical benefits. The sacrifice of those who marched in Hilo wasn't forgotten. Their struggle marked the beginning of Hawaii's transformation from a corporate-controlled colony into a more democratic society. Today, the Hilo Massacre remains little known outside Hawaii. Tourists still see the islands as paradise, unaware of the blood, sweat, and tears that built it. But for those who remember, the events of August 1st, 1938 symbolize something bigger, the price of standing up for dignity in the face of oppression. Sugar built Hawaii, but it was paid for in blood. The workers of Hilo dared to demand fairness, and they were met with violence. Yet their courage lit the spark that changed history. If you believe stories like this deserve to be heard, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to FactGenI, and share it with someone who loves history. And let me ask you, do you think the police were following orders or simply protecting the powerful? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to hear what you think.